let's see where I'm from. No, I can't do that because they don't see it. It's different. Okay, let's see what we can do. What about this? Can you see that one? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if somebody could shuffle the light in the back, the last one up here. Is that possible? Thanks. Thanks a lot. Oh yeah, that's a lot. That's very dark. Maybe if we could keep the conversation. Thank you very much. Okay. So, my name is Alexander Harang. I'm here with Peaceful Life. Thank you a lot for the opportunity. And I'm also representing the Norwegian Pizza Association. Now, I've been asked to tell you a little bit about what's happening in Europe at the moment regarding nuclear weapons. And what I'm going to tell you about is some really fresh news about something called the missile defense. You probably all heard about it. I'll take you shortly through it. We'll just spend a few minutes on it. So hopefully you'll get a fresh idea about what's happening right now. To cut it very short, the existing missile defense in Europe is now merging with the global US missile defense. This is what's happening. Question was mentioning something related to it, with the NATO strategic concept, and NATO being a more steady tool for the US global policy. Okay. What is happening now is it is something that is developing very rapidly without the appropriate public or political attention devoted to it, and that's why it's important to act right now. What I want to tell you about is stalling all major nuclear disarmament talks at the moment, and therefore it's highly relevant to the nuclear disarmament issue. And therefore, missile defense in Europe is key. It hinders disarmament, creates a booming condition for the European military and industrial complex, and increases the tensions with Russia. That's what I want to tell you a little bit about. So, what I'll spend the next 10 minutes trying to say, or 5 minutes saying something about, is 3 questions. What is today's missile defense architecture made up of? I'm not talking about nuts and bolts, but the broad picture. What are Obama's missile defense plans for Europe? And how does this sidetracking of the NATO and US missile defense affect the world? So, first, starting off with what is missile defense? This is a drawing. I'm not really sure if everybody can see it. I can see it. I'm not sure about everybody else. But this is just a way of drawing the missile defense system. You have different kind of clocks there or cubes where you defend for incoming missiles. The smallest ones are what we call tactical missile defense. The bit bigger one are regional. Tactical means, for instance, like the traditional European missile defense was tactical, and that means that it was there to protect troops from getting hit by incoming missiles. That means short and medium range missile coming in. These are mobile, smaller platforms, which doesn't really change the big geopolitical picture or the reasoning behind why we need nuclear weapons or don't need nuclear weapons. The big ones, the regional ones, they're also produced for defending. These are also systems for defending against these type of short and intermediate range missiles, which also have been in Europe for some time, but they're now being connected to the global scheme, which makes the entire picture of relevance. The global scheme where the US missile defense is creating a global shield for their interests, and yeah, that's the part of it. You can see all these things up there in the space. You can see a lot of radars. You can see some cruisers out there, some naval vessels. There's a lot of different platforms here, and I'll talk about a few of them. But I'll send you my entire presentation, and I'll also compile a few documents for you with some more detailed information about all these things. But the main issue we should ask ourselves is whether this is a defense or an offense. What is a missile defense, or is it really a missile offense? All these systems are basically like shooting down a bullet with a bullet. I mean, you got what we call an interceptor missile, shooting down an incoming missile. So when you get this system of all these interceptor missiles, what's the difference between defense and offense? It's mainly about where you're hitting at it, or what you're trying to hit. So if you look at the US global missile offense, as I would call it, started back in '83 with Clinton stopping it, and then George Bush Jr. starting it up again. You probably all remember 2004 when the missile defense talks started gaining momentum when Bush were deploying his first interceptor missiles. And that has been happening from 2004 onwards. That means that when you have a deployable system, you're getting from the stage of research and development of the system to something more. I'd say that the missile defense is still the world's biggest research and development project, in any way, but they're getting closer to it. So by the 2008 election, when Bush Jr. were kicked out of office and Obama came in, the status of this missile defense was as follows. It was 18 warships with AAs, that's a Lockheed Martin produced system for shooting out these interceptor missiles, with 94 interceptor missiles. That was the sea-based part of the system. Then he had 30 ground-based missiles in the US and 10 in Poland. If you remember, it was quite a bit of a political struggle among those 10 in Poland, and he actually had to go back on it. Now there's a new treaty which was signed with Poland 22nd of April, which means that there will be new missiles going to Poland very soon, actually next year. Radar and communication centrals in the UK, Czech Republic, you remember that thing there too? There was a lot of political debate about the radar in Czech Republic. There was millions of people were going out in the streets demonstrating against it. They even brought down the government because of this. So they had to give up. Now Obama's back, and I'll tell you what he's doing about it. Greenland, Japan, the US. So, what is the Obama plan? By 2013, his plan is 64 mobile platforms. 879 missiles. A lot more than Bush were talking about. 4 more mobile radars, the increase of 54 interceptor missiles in the US alone. And then here comes the big one. He wants to create a stronghold for the US global missile offense within Europe. And this is what's happening right now. Here's the European system. Is that too small for you guys? Yeah, that's too small for you. Let's skip it. But this is what question was talking about. November 2010, we got the NATO meeting, NATO summit, Lisbon summit. And during this top-level NATO summit, we got what is called the Lisbon Declaration, which is not a strategic concept, as Kosher was talking about. This is something else, but it comes out of the same summit. What do they say here? We have decided that the scope of NATO's programs, active layered theater, ballistic missile defense, there's a lot of words here, that's what we call the RPMD program, command and control and communications capabilities, will be expanded, and will be expanded, this is an important part here, beyond the protection of NATO deployed forces to also protect NATO European populations, territory and forces. In this context, the United States European phased adaptive approach is welcomed as a valuable national contribution to the NATO missile defense architecture. So, what does that mean? That means that we have to have a look at the last piece here. United States European phased adaptive approach to missile defense. What is that? This is what it is. This is Obama's plan. This is Obama's missile defense plan from the 17th of September last year. This is what they're saying yes to. Phased adaptive approach for Europe. Much more ambitious than the George Bush plan. It's a collective, the big difference between George Bush and Obama in this case is that while George Bush were talking to singular governments, like for instance having bilateral agreements with Czechia, trilateral agreements with Czechia and Poland and the US, Obama is doing a lot more collective efforts. What he's doing here is that he's using the entire NATO surrounding of 27 allies and bringing them much closer to the global missile defense project. It is being called lighter, a lighter approach, but it's actually a lot heavier. There's a lot, there are many more missiles, sensors and platforms that are involved in this scheme than we've ever seen before. And this phased adaptive approach for Europe is built up in 4 phases. The first phase is now in 2011. They're actually agreeing upon the architecture of this scheme and what they're going to put out in Europe now in June. That's why it's important to talk about it right now. Already in March, we had the first cruiser with the Aegis system, a part of the US global missile defense, coming into the Mediterranean as part of this plan, with interceptor missiles placed on this cruiser as part of the system. We have an agreement with Romania, which were just reached. They're going to place missiles there. Same thing in Poland. And by 2020, by the last stage, this system will not only be a defense system for short-range and medium-range missiles, it will also be intercontinental missiles, long-range missiles. ICBMs is intercontinental ballistic missiles. So, if you look at the phases, I mean, we will not go through this at all, but I'm just leaving it there so you can look at it when you get the presentation on your email. Yeah, but yeah, they kind of spell it out. So the latest news. This is what is important. May 3rd, the latest version of the Obama plan for Europe will published on May 3rd. I got a link to it in my presentation, so you can have a look at it full text later. May 3rd to 6th in San Sebastian in Spain, there was a conference hosted by NATO where the European industry, military industry, for the first time were invited to deliver their military technology to the US, to the global US missile defense. This is something very, very new, and there's a lot of money in it. This project is the most costly research and development project ever. They spent more than 200 billion on it this far, and bringing in the Europeans makes the different European military industrial complexes a lot closer, and they can link it with the system. So this is extremely important. May 13th, me and John had a meeting with Lex